This is your market update for Tuesday, September 14th. All right, my apologies for not being there after the opening today. There was no way that I would have been able to, speak at the conference tonight if I did stick around. So anyway, as far as S&P cash is concerned, okay, what we know about this chart is that we had time and price at this last high. Basically, the price was almost the second extension off of this last low. The timing was the cycles that we had between September 1st through the 3rd. Actual high was made on the 2nd. And what we need to watch next is if we are going to see a pullback that is just similar to some of these prior pullbacks within the uptrend, we do have to watch for a possible resumption of the rally somewhere above this August 19th low. Okay. Now, the other reason, besides the fact that these moves look pretty similar, is that we also have the next grouping of time cycles, and since we are trading straight down into them, we're going to anticipate a possible low and reversal back up. Now, the cycles, though, do come in anywhere between September 13th through the 17th, so just keep that in mind and just wait for your buy triggers, because we have not we haven't shifted back on the 30-minute charts back to bullish just yet, so we need to be patient for that. So let's take a look at areas of support. This is actually the continuous contract, because the back data in the December S&P futures contract is pretty pitiful, but we do have all of the back data here on the continuous contract, so that's where I'm coming up with most of these symmetry projections. And the area that we're not quite testing just yet, but an area that stands out for support is 44.14 1/4 to 44.28 3/4. And let's say, well, if we hold this low, the potential upside target is going to be the 1272 extension. If we make a lower low, then I will have to recalculate that potential target for you. But definitely going to watch for possible support on a pullback to this low. If we start taking out this low, then I think the market's in big trouble there. All right, so that's S&P continuous contract. And then as far as the December contract, a couple areas that stand out for support. Well, anything surrounding this, we have quite a few symmetry projections, though it's a bit of a wide zone. It's 44.08 1/2 to 44.21. We also have a decision with the 1272 extension of this prior low to high. And again, we're going to anticipate the possibility of the resumption of the rally. Why? Because it's the pattern that has been intact. And if the pattern is going to repeat itself, then we should, start to see some new buy entries around time and price, okay? If we, again, break underneath this low, that's when I think that we become way more vulnerable to the downside, along with the fact that we have definitely declined in the S&P for more than 3 trading days here. We're down 6 from this last high. Now, does that tell you that the market's going to definitely roll over and die? No, but it does tell you that it is absolutely vulnerable. Another thing that tells you that we are vulnerable is because the 513 has crossed to the downside. So again, currently in a sell mode, but anticipating the possibility that we do resume the rally. All right, as far as let's see, the 120-minute chart. Okay, we're still looking at a bearish mode here. We did have the crossover to the downside as far as the 834 EMA combo is concerned. But this is going to be a pretty interesting decision tomorrow. Let's see, and I will be working from the money show tomorrow, so I should be there at least 80% of the day. But anyway, as far as resistance, this is what you have to watch. The question is going to be to fail or not to fail. We do have resistance anywhere from, well, let's call this 44.6775 to 44.73 as one very important resistance decision that comes in underneath that prior swing high. Also 44.78. These are areas that we have to watch for possible failure. And if we do get the failure, we're going to look for another shot to the downside. However, if we end up holding this support instead and push through this resistance to take out this prior swing high, that's going to be the first indication that we may have a more important low in place. Okay, so that is S&P on the 120-minute chart. As far as Nasdaq, we also had we had timing at this last high that was made on the 7th. We also have timing now. It looks like actually I have to add one. There's one more cycle here on the 17th. So let's just call it pretty much the same as what we're seeing on the S&P as far as cycles for a possible low to develop. Okay, and obviously on this time frame chart we're still looking at a healthy uptrend unless we take out this prior swing low. So let's anticipate a possible resumption of the rally in these next few trading days in Nasdaq also. But again, don't trade against it. Don't trade against the cycles unless we really start to see the reversal indications. Otherwise, you could get hurt pretty badly. As far as, let's see, Nasdaq continuous chart, I do have some support here. Again, you just don't have the back data that you need to really do these charts on the December contract. But we do at least see more of this symmetry on the continuous contract. So we've got a decision 153.49 area. If we hold above that, and potential target would be that 158.08 area. If we end up making a lower low, we will have to recalculate this potential upside target. And then also, this is the December contract. Again, you just don't have the back data. So that's difficult to work with as far as, running the levels. But we do have some support here, 153.45 to 49, 152.42 to 46. It's just not going to be, as healthy as what we can see on the continuous contract. All right, so that's that. How about the 120-minute chart? Okay, 120-minute chart is basically still in a sell mode unless we take out this prior swing high. Okay, so for now the trend setup on the 120-minute chart would be for a possible short against any of these areas. It would be this 154.64 to 154.80 area, 154.94 to 155.11, and then the other symmetry projection, a larger one, does come in at this 155.35 area. So we're going to watch those areas for a possible failure. But if we end up pushing through that resistance instead, taking out this prior swing high, that's the first indication that we may have a more important low in place. So just remember to take this work from one decision to the next. And let's see. Oh yeah, and also this is just, this pretty much happened on the opening. So again, the way that you make money with this work is setup plus trigger equals trade entry, and then you manage it. That we basically had that bearish pattern of lower lows and lower highs. We slammed into basically symmetry resistance plus a 786 retracement plus a 618 retracement of another swing. And again, we never know if these zones are going to hold, and we never know, if it does trigger against it, how much the market's going to give you. However, you did, hit and hold that area. I'm not sure if anyone was quick enough to take that, but, we did end up having a huge decline off of that area of 214 Nasdaq points. Anyway, IWM, don't really have much on the daily chart except a 50% retracement. To me, that is a decision point, but it is not an official setup. But if we do continue to hold above this low, because we do actually have the next grouping of cycles is the 13th through the 17th, so we're also anticipating a possible resumption of the rally in the IWM. Let's see, then the potential target, if we hold the 50%, is going to be, let's see, take the high to the low, and then that means that a potential upside target is 232.45. But let's also look at the hurdles. We're going to have 100% of that prior rally, and that kind of overlaps that 618. So your next immediate decision on the daily is going to be this 225.76 to 226.18 area. If we do end up pushing through it after holding this, then this is your potential on the upside. Okay, and of course we do have the timing cycles that are suggesting that possibility. As far as let's see, the 30-minute chart in IWM. Okay, so right now this is, well, this did cross to the downside back here. It has not crossed back to the upside yet. So again, you're not supposed to be in this on the long side overnight. I mean, we did have a bounce off of support, but we have not had the crossover back to the upside, and we haven't cleared important symmetry that we need to clear to show that this may be a more important low. So next resistance decisions looks like, well, can't see it very well. All right, here it is. 223.91 to 223.98, 224.99, 225.22. Again, these are the areas of resistance that you want to watch for a possible failure. But if we end up blowing through them instead, then we start looking at the pullbacks on the buy side instead. All right, so that's that for the indexes. All right, as far as Apple's concerned, well, Apple is on top of a daily support decision, 147.23 to 148.86. Actually, it's this whole cluster, right? But we have not triggered back on the buy side again. So obviously it's your choice if you're just, placing, a stop underneath here rather than waiting for a trigger. But know that this is definitely an area in time and price where we're looking for a possible resumption of the rally. But I don't really believe it's safe unless you start to see the buy triggers again. Now, if we do hold, let's say above the recent low, let's see, which is the lowest low, 148.70. Okay, yeah, this was the lowest low. Then the potential upside target comes in at 159.59. As far as the 30-minute chart, again, this is in a sell mode. Okay, you did have the crossover to the downside with the 834. So if you are looking at the buy side, especially on this time frame chart, it is considered counter trend because you have a bearish pattern of lower lows and lower highs, and you had the crossover to the downside. We really need to see it cross back to the upside to feel more confident that we will resume the rally. As far as Amazon is concerned, okay, so you remember we had time and price at this last high. We also broke the support that came in above it. So I don't really have much on the daily chart except, the next retracement, which is the 382 back to the last low. Not really officially a setup, it's only a single level. But what the 30-minute chart does show you is, well, this one did cross to the downside with the 834, so it had the crossover. It also took out a prior swing low. Okay, so this is still in a sell mode until you shift back to the upside, and we have not done it. We're still looking at lower lows and lower highs at this point, and can't get too excited about the buy side unless we start clearing all this important resistance. Now, this is a wide zone. It comes in anywhere from 34.58 to 34.77, but note that if we do start to push through it and we do get the crossover back to the upside, then I would feel more comfortable looking at Amazon and keeping it overnight. You're not there yet, okay? All right, Facebook. This one is still above the original support cluster, this 370.23 to 372.69, so that is still a valid decision. I don't have much more than that in Facebook. And as far as resistance, like if we are going to resume the rally, we really need to start pushing through the symmetry resistance, starting with this 377.06 to 378.20 area. You can also use that resistance for a possible short. That's if you trade up into the area, and then it also triggers a short for you. Okay, because on this time frame chart, it is in a bearish mode. Google is holding that symmetry support, the 2807 to 2814. If we do end up holding above here, all the moving averages are still on the side of the bulls here. Potential on the upside would be to the 1272 extension. Okay, now that's what it looks like on the daily chart. I'll have to take a look at the intraday chart for you tomorrow. As far as Netflix, we have a couple of areas of support to watch. This, what we're holding so far, the 580, well, the area near the 583.81 area. Underneath that, 572.25 to 575.28. Those are the two support zones I want you to watch there. All the moving averages are still on the side of the bulls here, so you can look at that, but remember not to keep it overnight unless you shift patterns on the lower time frame. So you can see on the 30-minute chart, we do have a new pattern of lower lows and lower highs, and if you want to look at a trend setup on this time frame chart, you can look at a short against 596.50, 599.26, or 603.06 to 603.74. As far as NVIDIA, we are actually now fully testing this support cluster, and it remains at, it looks like, 217.09 to 218.69. So that is a decision. All the moving averages are on the side of the bulls, but what you need is a trigger. Obviously, you can, you'll see a day trade trigger before you ever see the swing trade trigger. But let's look at what the potential would be if we hold above here. Just measure the high to the low, and the potential upside extension would be this 233.65. All right, and then as far as the 30-minute chart, 30-minute chart is still bearish. If you want to look at the resistance for possible shorts, maybe for a day trade, again, that's your choice. As far as Tesla, okay, so remember we did have timing at that last high. We did see a pullback, but did not quite get down into the support that I was looking for as far as an entry. But if we do end up resuming the rally, and to do that we would really need to clear 749.10 to 752.55, then we are going to once again watch for an extension to the upside. And I believe that comes into this zone here. It just overlaps all these other areas. So that is only possible, though, again, if we can push through the 786 that overlaps the 100% projection. Otherwise, we do have lower support decisions to consider if we do test them. And yeah, not really much. We really only got close to a 50% retracement on 30-minute chart. I don't really consider this any sort of setup at this point. We'll have to be patient for one. As far as gold, there isn't anything beyond the 1618 extension at this last low, and if we hold above it, then yes, we can trade higher. And where's your risk? Your risk would just be underneath this low. And potential on the upside, if we continue to hold above here, would be the 1272 extension, which comes in up here. And then there would also be hurdles on the way up, with the first meaningful resistance at 1816, it looks like 60. All right, how about, yeah, nothing too much on the 120-minute chart, but I did find a pullback decision for you. On the 30-minute chart, you can see that here we took out a prior swing high. We had the moving average crossover to the upside. So when that happens, it's potentially the beginning of a new pattern of higher highs and higher lows. So if we hold there, we're going to look for 1272 extension as your first target, 1802.24. All right, how about crude oil? 786 retracement, that is a resistance decision. It's not a cluster though. And then we have two levels at 71.44 to 47. Those would be the next decisions on the upside. Also note that on this daily crude chart that we're above the 200, above the 50, 5 and 13 are in a buy mode. So we'd want to continue to focus on the buy side at this point. As far as the 120-minute chart, you remember it continued to hold above this symmetry projection, yet we have not yet met the target because that remains at 71.44. The only thing that's in the way is a 100% projection at 71.05, but otherwise we're going to look for higher prices. And then I did give it this pullback earlier this morning. We took out the top end of the support but ended up holding, I think it might be this swing. So 70.12 was the symmetry projection, 70.11 was the actual low, close enough. And if we continue to hold above this low, 71.20 is target 1, 71.50 is target number 2 on this time frame. All right, there's just a couple of other, of the extra charts that I'm going to show you here. And one of them is PayPal, because we have a triple cluster, 276 even to 278.10. You have a 618 retracement, a 1618 extension, and a 100% projection. So that is a setup zone. It needs a trigger. Honestly, I haven't had time to see if it did trigger at all. And then Square, not a perfect hit of support, but as long as we hold above today's low, because we have some timing factors for a low, and this was just slightly through the symmetry, then you can look at the buy side. But if it takes out this last low, throw it out the window, it would be a bust. And then I think the last one was pretty much Moderna. And this is where we had some symmetry plus a 618 retracement. This is another decision. It is a relatively wide zone. You can break it down into smaller zones if you want, but it's anywhere from this 401.78 to 413.85. And if we don't end up holding that, you have to be prepared for a failure. Okay, so that's your next meaningful decision there. Beyond that, like I said, I'm going to be working from the the money show tomorrow, and I will see you tomorrow morning.